A dangerous choice. Aaliyah's heart dropped. She instinctively stepped back, her body acting as a barrier between the men and her daughter, who was still inside. Fear clutched at her throat. These men were dangerous. There was no denying it now. "Leave," she whispered, her voice tight but firm. "Get off my property." The men exchanged amused glances, like two wolves cornering their prey. The first one, the smooth talker, leaned forward slightly, his cold eyes fixed on hers. "We're not here to cause trouble. In fact, we're offering protection. But if you don't cooperate, well, accidents happen." Her mind raced. She wanted to slam the door in their faces, but something told her that wouldn't stop them. They had power, influence. They knew things she couldn't begin to understand. But what were her options? She could call the police, but the man had already said they'd been watching her how long before they made good on their threats. Aaliyah's only thought was to protect Maya, and to do that, she needed more information. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said carefully, hoping to buy some time. "We haven't had any strange visitors." The second man raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. "The homeless man," he said flatly. "He came to your door, didn't he?" Aaliyah stiffened. They knew. Of course they knew. "I don't know who you're talking about," she repeated, though her voice wavered. The first man chuckled, a deep, unsettling sound. "Mrs. Johnson, lying won't help you. We have eyes everywhere. He's dangerous, and we need to find him before he does something reckless." Aaliyah's pulse quickened. "Dangerous? Why? What do you want from him?" The man's smile faded, his gaze growing colder. "That's not your concern. Just tell us where he is, and we'll handle the rest." For a moment, Aaliyah considered giving them what they wanted. After all, the homeless man was a stranger, and these men were clearly dangerous. But something in the pit of her stomach stopped her. The homeless man had warned her about them. He had been desperate, terrified, and if there was even a shred of truth in his story, then these men were not the heroes they pretended to be. She took a deep breath, steeling herself. "I don't know where he is," she said, her voice steadier this time. "And even if I did, I wouldn't tell you." The men's expressions darkened. The first one stepped closer, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "That's a shame, Mrs. Johnson. We hoped you'd cooperate. Now things will have to get messy." Before Aaliyah could react, the second man pulled something from his jacket, a small black device, sleek and menacing. He held it up for her to see, his eyes narrowing as he spoke. "This," he said softly, "is a tracking device. We've already placed one on your house and your car. If you don't play nice, we'll know where you are at all times. And if you try to run, we'll find you." Aaliyah's stomach churned. They had thought of everything. She felt trapped, helpless. "We'll give you time to reconsider," the first man said, turning to leave. "But remember, Mrs. Johnson, if we don't get what we want, your daughter will be the one who suffers." With that, the two men walked away, leaving Aaliyah standing in the doorway, shaking with anger and fear. Maya's discovery the next few days passed in a blur of anxiety. Aaliyah couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time a car drove by the house, her heart leapt into her throat. She kept a close eye on Maya.
Before continuing with the story, please subscribe to the channel. Support your people. We will be strong if we are loyal to each other.
Never letting her out of sight for too long. But Maya sensed something was wrong. She wasn't a little girl anymore. She was old enough to pick up on the tension in the house. One afternoon, Maya sat down next to her mother at the kitchen table. "Mom," she said quietly, "what's going on? You've been acting weird since the police came. Is everything okay?" Aaliyah hesitated, not wanting to scare her daughter, but she couldn't keep Maya in the dark forever. Taking a deep breath, she decided to tell her at least part of the truth. "Maya, honey, something's going on. It's about the man you gave the sandwich to. The police and some other people are looking for him. They think he's dangerous." Maya's eyes widened. "But he didn't seem dangerous. He was just hungry." "I know, baby. But we have to be careful. There are some bad people involved in this, and we don't know who to trust. Maya fell silent, processing the information. After a few minutes, she looked up at her mother, determination shining in her eyes. What if we find him first? Aliyah blinked in surprise. What? Maya stood up, her face serious. What if we find the homeless man before they do? He could tell us the truth about what's going on. Aliyah shook her head, her stomach tightening. No, Maya, that's too dangerous. We don't know what he's mixed up in. But he was nice to me, Maya insisted, and he said people were after him. Maybe he's innocent, and they're framing him. Aliyah stared at her daughter, her mind racing. Could it be true? Could the homeless man really be a victim in all of this? I don't know, Maya, Aliyah said softly. I just don't know. But Maya was determined. Over the next few days, she began asking around, talking to people in the neighborhood, trying to gather any information she could about the homeless man. She even went to the park, where she had first met him, hoping to spot him again. One afternoon, while Aliyah was at work, Maya decided to take matters into her own hands. She grabbed her backpack, filled it with snacks and a bottle of water, and set off to find the man who had caused so much chaos in their lives. The truth unveiled, Maya wandered the streets, retracing her steps from that fateful day. She visited the park, the bus station, and the alleys where she had seen homeless people gather. But there was no sign of the man. Just as she was about to give up, a soft voice called out from behind her. You shouldn't be here, kid. Maya whirled around, her heart pounding. There, standing in the shadows of a crumbling building, was the homeless man. His clothes were even more tattered than before, his face gaunt and tired. But his eyes, those same eyes that had once been filled with gratitude, were now filled with fear. Maya took a step forward, her voice shaking. I've been looking for you. My mom says people are after you. Is it true? The man's face hardened. You shouldn't have come looking for me. It's not safe. But why? What's going on? Why are they after you? The man glanced around nervously before stepping closer to Maya, lowering his voice. They're after me because I know too much. I worked for them once. I saw things I shouldn't have seen, and now they want to silence me. Maya's eyes widened. Who are they? The man swallowed hard. It's a group of powerful people, politicians, businessmen, even some cops. They're involved in illegal things. I was hired to do some work for them, but I found out what they were really up to. When I tried to expose them, they turned on me, framed me for crimes I didn't commit. Maya's heart raced. But why are they after me and my mom? The man's expression softened. Because you helped me. They think you know more than you do. They're afraid you'll expose them, just like I tried to. Tears welled up in Maya's eyes. What are we supposed to do? They're watching us. They've been threatening my mom. The man looked around again, his face grim. You need to leave town. Get as far away from here as you can. They won't stop until they get what they want. Maya shook her head. But we can't just leave. We don't have anywhere to go. The man's eyes filled with sorrow. I'm sorry, kid. I wish I could help more. But if you stay, they'll come for you. And when they do, it won't be pretty. A fight for survival back at home. Aliyah was frantic. She had come home to find Maya missing, and after calling around to all of Maya's friends, she realized her daughter had gone looking for the homeless man. Aliyah's heart raced as she drove through the neighborhood, searching desperately for her daughter. Finally, she spotted her on the side of the road, talking to a man in ragged clothes, the homeless man. Without thinking, Aliyah pulled over and ran toward them. Maya. Maya turned, her eyes wide with relief. Mom, I found him. He told me everything. Aliyah grabbed her daughter's arm, pulling her back. We need to go. Now. But before they could leave, the sound of tires screeching echoed through the street. A black SUV sped toward them, and Aliyah's blood ran cold. It was the men in suits. The homeless man's face paled. Run, he shouted. Aliyah didn't need to be told twice. She grabbed Maya's hand and sprinted down the alley, the sound of the SUV's engine behind them. The homeless man took off in the opposite direction, trying to lead the men away. But the SUV didn't follow him. Instead, it stopped right in front of Alia and Maya, blocking their path.
Thank
The
you for
two men
watching.
from before
Leave your
stepped
opinions
out,
on this
their
story in the
faces
comments.
twisted with anger.
As well, you can
should have
watch our other
listened.
videos.
The first man growled. Now it's too late. Alia pushed Maya behind her, her heart pounding. Stay away from my daughter. The second man sneered. You should have just given us what we wanted. Now we'll have to make an example out of you. But before they could take another step, a loud bang echoed through the alley. The homeless man had reappeared, holding a small, rusted gun. Leave them alone, he said, his voice trembling. Or I swear, I'll shoot. The men froze, their eyes narrowing. You don't have the guts. But the homeless man's hand was steady, his finger on the trigger. Try me. An unexpected hero for a moment. Time seemed to stand still. Alia, Maya, and the men all held their breath, waiting for what would happen next. Finally, one of the men laughed, a cold, heartless sound. You're not worth the trouble, he said, backing off. But don't think this is over. We'll be watching. With that, the men climbed back into the SUV and sped off, disappearing into the night. Alia collapsed against the wall, her body shaking with relief. Maya clung to her side, tears streaming down her face. The homeless man lowered the gun, his face filled with exhaustion. You need to get out of here, he said quietly. They'll be back. Alia nodded, her voice hoarse. Thank you for everything. The man gave a sad smile. Just be safe. With that, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows, leaving Alia and Maya standing in the alley, shaken but alive. A new beginning the next morning. Alia made a decision. They couldn't stay in town any longer. The men had made it clear they would never stop hunting them. So, with a heavy heart, she packed their things, and she and Maya left town, leaving their old lives behind. As they drove away, Maya looked out the window, her mind swirling with everything that had happened. She thought about the homeless man, the people after him, and the dark secrets that had nearly cost them everything. But despite the fear, Maya felt a sense of hope. They had survived, and as long as they were together, they could face whatever came next. And so, Alia and Maya began a new chapter in their lives. Far from the danger that had once stalked them, they didn't know what the future held. But one thing was certain: they would never forget the homeless man who had saved them, the man who had risked everything to protect them from the darkness lurking in the shadows.
This is the end of the first part of this fascinating story. If you want to continue the story, write in the comments and I will publish the second part.